Hello everyone, this is Joe, and today I'm going to help you get started with Backender. So first, we need to have an idea. As for me, I'm gonna be having a Facebook loan API. So let's try this idea. And now we need to log in with Google account. So let's continue. Let's wait for it to be logged in. So as you can see, we have now the text that we inputted in our home page. So let's click next. And then as for the name, I want it to be same thing, Facebook Loan API. Click next. And as for the design, I want to have the swagger. Select, submit, and let's wait for it. So as you can see, your project is still being created by our AI. So with just a few lines of words, we are able to create our backend application using AI technology. So please wait, we are still generating your AI. However, you can still close this tab. An email will be sent to you when it is finished. So once the generation is started, you're gonna be getting an email that your API is now being created. So let's wait for it. Let's wait for this one. So as you can see in this part, we can see the status of our project creation using the AI. So file storage created, database collections are created, and we can wait for all of the necessary components of our backend. So as you can see, endpoints has been created. It is so near to finish. Docs has been created, initial project completed. So congrats on your first milestone. So you have generated your backend application successfully. So you can now check your docs to see your app in action, or you can tweak some endpoints if you want to change some functionalities. So as for now, I'm gonna walk you through what the our AI has created during those times. I think that was a minute or so. So let's go here. This is the dashboard, by the way. You can see here the number of requests that's been made for the last 3 months, also the unique users, and then the success rate of our application. So let's go to database page. As you can see, we can see all the data that has been stored. We can also use the query builder. Next, we have the file storage. We can upload files in here. We can also use this inside our endpoint editor. So let's go to endpoints. So in here we can see all of the endpoints that have been created by the AI. So we have a few functions in here, but we're gonna be focusing on endpoint editor later. Let's go to docs, and we can create as many docs as we want. So we can go to lags. So the lags, we can see all the lags in here. We can filter the lags. We can view the entire lag. We can go to settings and upgrade plan. So now let's go to our docs first. If we go back to overview, view documentation. So this is our documentation for our Facebook API clone. So let's wait for it. And as you can see, we have a lot of endpoints in here that has been created. So we cannot test all of the other endpoints unless we authenticate. So we need to get a token. It is made in JWT, so we're gonna use that one. So Backender has prepared a user with the email and password for us to test. So try it out, and then we have the password jendo and then the email jendo@gmail.com. So let's execute this one, and as you can see, it created a request through this host called backender.io/Facebook Loan API/login. So let's copy this token. We need this one, copy, and we're gonna click authorize and then paste it here. Authorize. So now we are logged in since we have pasted our token, so we can now use all of the other endpoints. let's try to use this endpoint /post. So try it out, execute, and as you can see, we have our sample post in here that has been created. So now what if we are gonna make a request in the login endpoint and we're gonna choose the wrong password? So what will happen? Wrong password. So let's execute that one, and as you can see, it's an error. Of course, this is right because it's an error, but the message is kind of weird. Parameters user is null, cannot send a JWT. So it is correct that it is an error 500, but the message is misleading and maybe the users will not understand what it is trying to say. So let's change this. Let's tweak this endpoint to give the right message. So let's go back to our project and let's click the endpoints. We're gonna go to the endpoints page and look for the login endpoint. So let's click this one and let's go to endpoint editor. And as you can see in here, we see all of the data, the statistics of this endpoint login. We made two requests for this login endpoint, and we have one unique user. First one is we have the correct password. The second one, we have the incorrect password. So let's go to endpoint editor. So let's just click this, got it. And now in this endpoint editor, we can change the functionality of this endpoint, the login endpoint. So in the first part, this is the source. We can see here some settings. We can enable authentication. We can see all of the parameters that requires this endpoint. We have the request body password and request body email, and we also have sample response if you want to add sample response. We also have description if you want to add description. So now let's click on this one, transform string into MD5. So what this does is it encrypts a string. In this case, it's request body password, and transform it into MD5 hashing algorithm. So it's an encrypted string. So the next function, we have database get one. So retrieves only one data from the Backender project database. So as you can see, he collected all the data in the user's collection with an email of the email in the payload, and then the password of this one. This one is what we call variable ID. So the variable ID var underscore Tyler J can be found in here. So transform string Tyler J is this first stack in here. So the value of this one will be put inside this function, the password function. So now let's go to this function stack. So in this function stack, accepts an object data usually from user's collection and creates a JWT token. So this function stack creates the JWT token, but this stack returns error if the user's collection is null. So he receives data from this variable J03JVN, which is this one, the database. So if this database is null, this will return an error. So let's try this out and let's run, make a new run. So first, let's have the right password at gmail.com. So we have this one here. So submit and running. Let's wait for it. And as you can see, we have the right response. We have the token and then the expiration date, 7 days. So what if we're gonna put a wrong password? So wrong password in here, and then submit, and let's try to see what will happen. And as you can see, we have an error. Parameters user is null, cannot send a JWT. So this function stack in here returns this value. This is the MD5 encryption of the one that is in the payload password. So this stack in here returns null, since he cannot get data inside the user's collection with a wrong password. So it returns, this one returns null. So what will happen is that this stack in here returns an error since he cannot find since this function stack above is null. So what will happen, this error is right, but we have to make it accurate, the message. So we must change this to invalid username or password message. So what we're going to do in order to do that is, let's add stock. Let's click this plus button, add stock, and then we're gonna find the function called is null. So this function checks if the value is null. So let's click this one, and then we're gonna copy the variable ID of this function stack here. Variable ID copied, so we're gonna put it here. So this checks if this variable is null. So let's click submit. So we now have added the is null function. Now what we're going to do is we're gonna add if blocks. So here let's add a condition. This is the way so we can add an if block. So add condition, as you can see, we have added an if block in here. And we can also add multiple if blocks if we want to, but in this case we only need one. So let's remove that one first. So in this if block, we're gonna put the variable ID of is null in here. So let's copy the variable ID and let's paste it here, and let's click submit. So what happens is if this condition returns true, it will execute the functions inside the if block. So let's add all the functions that we need inside this if statement or if block. So let's add stock here, and then let's have the function called return. So this function will stop all the remaining executions and returns the stack with the provided value. So the provided value can be in any form: string, number, boolean, object, array, etc. So now this is the value that we have. So we have to return an error, invalid username or password. So let's have this error message instead of that weird null thing. So let's click submit, and then now this is our whole function stack in here. What will happen is, first it will receive the payload, which is email and password. Then it will transform the password payload into MD5, and then it will get data from users collection. And then next is it checks if the collection if the data is null or not, and if it's null, it returns all the functionality. If it's not null, of course it will continue here and creates the token. So let's try it out, and let's click run, and then make a new run, and let's have this wrong password for this run first. So let's click submit and running. Let's wait for it. So as you can see, we have now the right error message, which is successful, invalid username or password. So we now have the accurate error message that we need, since this function stack is working fine. So we have the possible error in here, invalid username. So if we trace it back from the first one, first we have the email and password as our parameters, and then it transforms the password payload into an MD5, and then it gets data, it retrieves data from users collection with the username, with the email and the password. And then if this is null, the result of this is true. If this one is null, so as you can see, the last result is null. So yes, this is true, and if this is true, this if statement will trigger. So if this if statement will trigger, all of the functionalities inside this if statement will also be triggered. So as in this case, it's the function stack, it's the return function that will be triggered. So invalid username or password. So what will happen if we input the right password? So make a new run, and then let's have Jendo, which is the right password. Submit and saving. and let's wait for it. And as you can see, we have the right token. So what happens is, since this one is false, as you can see, function is not false, therefore this if statement in here, the if block in here, has not been triggered. So the if block will only be triggered if it's true, if the value of this one is true here, right? So it directly went from the function is null into the create a token from the data JWT sign. So I think that's it. So now if we test this inside our API documentation, it will be updated immediately. So let's click execute and let's wait for it. So as you can see, we have now the right response message, which is invalid username or password. So what we have done so far, we have first created our application inside the Backender using the keyword Facebook loan, and then we check all of the components that have been created under it. Then we check the documentation and tested our API, and then we also tweak some parts of the API, which is the login functionality, and saved it. And as you can see, we have the right functionality now. So that's it for the Backenders getting started video. So I hope you learned something, and that's it. Bye bye.